first things first, we're going to start with a little bit of history, how we met, but we're going to keep it short. So we met in RASP, which is
Ranger Assessment and Selection Program 1, or E5 and below.
correct. So we went through that in 2016, and to try to basically bring us up to where we're at right now. In between that time, once we actually passed selection, we probably only realistically saw each other 2 or 3 times between then and now. I know we had talked a couple times, whether it was via text or potentially even like some social media stuff like Snapchat or something, but didn't actually see each other that often. So brings us up to where we're at now. So fill me in kind of as a brief overview. What did you actually end up doing once you passed RASP?
All right, so RASP 1, 2016 graduation. No, or was it? Wait,
Yeah, we finished in
November
2016.
2016?
Yep.
And then because we had Christmas, we got stuck there for Christmas.
It was Thanksgiving week that we finished, I believe. Because my family came down and I spent Thanksgiving with them in a hotel after we passed.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so for me, it was RASP 1, Afghanistan, CERT, Ranger School, Afghanistan, air assault.
Hardest 11 days in the Army.
Hardest fucking 11 days in the Army. Okay, not true, but sounds cool.
That goes hard, dude. Badge is a badge.
And then last year at Ranger Training Brigade.
Okay, awesome. So what job did you do?
So I was a 25 Victor combat documentation and production specialist. And now I believe it's a 46 Victor. So 25 Victor used to be in the Signal Corps, and they recently merged it into public affairs, which makes a lot of sense, to be honest, because it's like you have a combat camera, and also there's a 25 Romeo, which is like a pretty much like a camera maintainer job, which really fucking useless job, to be honest. Doesn't like they're not used properly. It's a waste of money. I don't know if they got rid of it, but they should have.
Do you remember there was a kid who went through RASP with us? I actually was friends with him, but I haven't talked to him in we hung out a little bit afterwards. But he was a weird, I can't remember what his job was, but he did nods repair.
Yeah, he went to 275.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
No.
Oh.
He was nods repair, and he worked down there at RHQ or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just lost touch with him for his job was to repair nods, but then when he showed up, that wasn't what he ended up doing. He did something completely different type of situation.
Yeah, that's the thing about random soft skill or non-combat jobs, non-combat MOS jobs, military occupational specialty jobs, is depending on the unit that you're in, you may not do your job whatsoever. So that's a dangerous thing. Okay, the pro about the Army is that when you do sign a contract, you sign a contract for that job. You are going to get the job that you sign up for. Other branches, you kind of get put in the pool, as far as maybe you'll get the branch, but you could also get randomly. But when you move into a unit, it could be any unit, but sometimes Ranger Regiment, if you're a very small, obscure MOS that maybe there's not necessarily a use for, that sounds kind of mean, but they might put you in a different position, and you'll cover down on a different role, which
Well,
it could ruin your day.
The funny thing is you say that, and being on the line, being an 11 Bravo infantry, it's actually very likely in a place like Ranger Regiment that they'll use you to do a job that they cannot fill. So a lot of the times they'll take guys that are either dirtbags or injured and then push them into other positions that they cannot get somebody to pass RASP to fill. So cook, a lot of different weird random support stuff in the
Normally
motor pool, stuff like that.
Your S1 shop at Ranger Regiment is all 11 Bravos.
It is, yeah. So, I mean, that's part of signing up for, you sign on the dotted line saying, hey, you guys can do whatever you want with me when you join the military, and sometimes they end up doing whatever they want with you, and it sucks. Mm-hmm. So, all right, so awesome. Tell me, kind of talk through your experience going through RASP as a support element, because I know we had talked about this a little bit, and obviously going in on the infantry side, you're really expecting everything to be physical. You're expecting people to be yelling at you because that's kind of what you dealt with going through OSIT, 1 unit station training for, infantry, even though basic training itself is kind of a joke. But was that kind of a shock and awe, or did you feel like you had a pretty good understanding of what to expect when you showed up, and did you feel prepared, like mentally and physically, to deal with kind of the excessive pressures that they put on you on both sides of that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, like my first impression of RASP was like, I was like, okay, this is what I thought the Army was like based off all the movies I've seen and everything. Huge gamer guy, used to watch the military channel like growing up as a kid and everything. So like when I actually got to RASP and, the amount of like shooting we did, and like even we had a guy from the 82nd, he's like, I've never fired this many rounds in my life. Like, and he was at the 82nd for like 4 years or whatever. Which makes sense just because of budgetary differences. But yeah, that was the first time where I actually felt like, oh, this is what I thought the Army was going to be like. But like, okay, so my background, basic training, distinguished honor grad. Okay, just throwing that out there. Yeah, you're sitting with the goddamn fucking royalty right here. And honor platoon fucking led him to victory, brother.
How was well, actually continue.
And then we go to my AIT, which had 2 classes, and it was actually 7 months long. Like the first class was 3 months, the last class was 4. So we did a photo class and a video course. Honor grad of both.
How was AIT as far as like, were they treating you with respect? Was it kind of big boy rules? Did you have to do like PT events, or was it just kind of you're just there to learn your job, not get kind of fucked with the whole time?
Yeah, so that's the issue with the Army. I don't know if it's changed now. Hopefully it has. But so when you're in AIT, you're in TRADOC. What does TRADOC stand for? Training and what is the DOC? I can't remember.
Insert it in the captions right now because I don't know and I don't care.
Yeah, so you fall. Training and doctrine command. That's a stab in the dark.
Close enough.
Yes.
Not the only thing that you stab in the dark, from what I understand.
Yeah. So when you fall under TRADOC, it's everything's kind of like really by the rules. You follow under a lot of strict regulations, and that's where the Army, if you're an extended AIT, like we were 7 months long, that's a substantial amount of time. For me, I joined when I was 22, so I turned 23 in AIT. Already have college at that point, and you pretty much feel like you're being babysat. It's like there's so many rules and regulations. You have to walk around in a battle buddy team. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm an adult and I'm an adult. I'm a soldier. I've been to the range. Like, what? And I can't walk around by myself because like I'm randomly going to get sexually assaulted or something like that. Like there's a bunch of like, I'm going to get ya, and I'm sure I'm making light of it, but yeah, absolutely. Like bad things happen. Roger that. But it's just like, you're not treated like an adult. Right. And I think that's a dangerous maneuver. Hopefully they're changing that, but I think it's very damaging when you're like, you're telling me I'm 18 years old and I can serve my country, but I can't have a beer? What's going on, brother?
Well, that's a law outside of the military, but go on.
But that's the energy I'm transferring to this. For sure. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so in AIT, it was long. There was a lot of stuff where I was like, this is very silly. We should be treated like adults, but we're not. I was in near Baltimore, so Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. It's where the NSA is located. Really cool location. You're very close to DC, very close to Baltimore, like an Uber right away, And it's like you can't get off post until you hit a certain phase, like all this kind of stuff. And you're like, like before I joined, I was like, dude, I'm gonna go to Baltimore. I'm gonna go to DC every weekend. It's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be a party or whatever. I don't even know what I was thinking. But it wasn't. Now the education portion for photo and video was very good. I actually liked that. Like as someone who went to college for that, it was like a really good fundamental course. So it was like hitting the basics again, which, as you know, just like anything else, the fundamentals are key. Marksmanship, everything. Mm-hmm. Master at the fundamentals, the basis of Ranger Regiment. And so from there, went to Airborne. When I was in AIT, we had the public affairs officer at the time from Ranger Regiment coming. He's like, hey, I want future Rangers, so future you, to like come down here, and we need to expand Ranger Regiment. We need to have like a VI, a visual information capacity, actually, Mm-hmm. So that's where I volunteered.
Now, was there combat camera in Ranger Regiment as far as an actual position prior to you showing up?
No, so there's this thing called an MTO. I can't remember. That's another acronym.
Insert the acronym below.
Yeah, it's pretty much it's like how many people you're allowed to have in your unit, like how many roles you can have, like how many infantrymen, how many supply sergeants, how many supply soldiers, and all that kind of stuff. It's your manning list. Manning is probably the first thing in MTO. But no, combat camera was not on the MTO. But the thing about Ranger Regiment, which is nice being soft, Special Operations Forces, is you're allowed to kind of do whatever you want in some regards. And so that was one of those things where like, hey, we need to... Is it close?
No, you're good.
Okay. Man, you freaking me out, okay? Yeah. But yeah, there wasn't a position. And so that's where I volunteered for it. Then after completion of AIT, went down to airborne school, did airborne, then went to RASP.
Okay.
After that. And that's where we met.
Yeah. So that brought us up to then. Okay. So awesome. Had some accomplishments along the way. So you joined you didn't come in with an option 40. You were offered the opportunity once you were going through AIT, which is awesome. Definitely a different route. I sought out the option 40. I actually had to wait around a couple of months to get it, especially for infantry, billet, so to say. So awesome. So just walk me through doing your job overseas. So no specific stories needed, but kind of just explain what that felt like to finally get to do your job in the unit that you hope to be a part of.
Okay, so the first trip in 2017, there was really no solid infrastructure for combat camera, especially in Ranger Regiment. Like it was a new asset. There was a couple comm cams that made it before me, but they both failed Ranger School and got RFS'd.
Okay.
But so they were only there for a very short amount of time. They didn't really have any, if I don't even know them, if they heard me, they're another book this guy, but they had zero impact on the organization for that job. They got ground, but they didn't hold it. So it's like, you didn't do anything, honestly. I'm just being mean right now.
Do you feel like you had an uphill battle then because there was kind of like soiled ground that you stepped out onto? Like you had to kind of build a reputation for yourself and undo theirs?
Yeah, so there was a 25 Mike, which was it's a multimedia illustrator there. So him and I worked together. I was extremely driven, and I just saw the amount of potential for a combat camera ranger and just the need for it. Because it's like, we're at that time, 2016 and onwards, it's like obviously social media is huge. Like there's a lot of opportunities there. It even impacts recruitment. So there's so many things we could do. And also from a VI, visual information side, as far as like, for these battle damage assessments, like we can do so much more. Also historical documentation. Like, why is this not being done? There's all these opportunities for it. Like that's the job of like ComCam in general, just for the Army. You're the commander's eyes and ears, right? Your history's eyes and ears. Like that's your job. And it's not really being documented at that point. And so I saw so much potential and was very excited, but I was a PFC. Sure, I'm older, college, I'm very good at my job, but, it's the military. You can only do so much. Like, at that point in time, like, you have, like, pretty little decision-making ability, but you can always influence, right? I can't make decisions for the organization, but I can influence things. So, yeah. Oh, you asked about deployment. Yeah, so we fast forward, we go into 2017. I'm like, okay, sweet. Finally, OCONUS, like... that was one of my major goals of like joining the Army, was to experience war. 2017 was like I wasn't well integrated into the force.
Take it out. We'll take it out.
Yeah.
We're good. Keep going.
Which is stupid because it's like everyone knows anyway.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why that was like kind of a PAO rule. But like at the end of the day, I don't know. For me also, it's like kind of complicated too, because it's like everyone, I don't know. We gave them our camp, so everything that was like classified, they already have.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like locations, like for structures and everything, I don't know, man. Yeah. So 2017, it was like, do you remember Jaerett?
Yeah.
How you have the whole training sequence, like he becomes a sniper. Mm-hmm. A 2-man sniper team. They get in a position where they're about to engage the target and then called off airstrike.
Oh, I love that. The dudes freak out.
So they never got to use the skills that they've been training for. Mm-hmm. So, and also like when we joined, I think probably all of us, our entire class was like, shit, did we miss the war?
Yeah.
That was like a major concern, because it's like at that time, it's like you have to be in the right company. You have to be in the right platoon. You have to be, oh, do you have your tab or not? Like, are you going to be able to go out or not? Go out on target or not? So there's a lot of factors, a major roll of the dice. Like, are you there at the right season? Is it just winter? Is there going to be a ceasefire between the Taliban? Like, there's so many factors that go on. The whole military thing is just a roll of the dice. What happens to you? What you get to do? What you don't get to do? So in 2017, though, that's when, like, I didn't really get to do. There's a lot of things, and I only got to do like a few missions, but nothing. I never really got anything cool to do. Like, honestly, like I was like, fuck. So I was like, okay, go to Ranger School immediately after and get my tab, and then things are gonna change. Because it's like in Ranger Regiment, that's the big thing. Like, oh, you made it here, cool, but you don't have a Ranger tab, so you don't matter.
Yeah.
Like it's a culture where it's, I guess you could say, toxic, but I'd say pros and cons, right? Like, it pushes you to do hard things that you maybe don't want to do, but at the same time, it comes at a heavy price of putting down people.
Yeah.
That could be technically proficient.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the gamble with something like Ranger School is it's irrelevant how you do in your job at the unit. Obviously, there's a lot to be said about the skills that you learn from going through that leadership course, but it also can remove people that could have brought a lot to the table in certain positions, So definitely understand on that one. So moving on to your second deployment, is that kind of where you feel like you opened up and were able to get your job done to what your personal satisfaction was?
Yeah, I mean, second deployment 2019 was a lot. It's everything that I expected it to be, everything that I wanted it to be. And the reason was, it's like, it was kind of like slowly, like I was having a lot of battles inside my shop with the OIC, like the civilian that was there, like still trying. I'm like, okay, I'm a tab specialist now. This is the direction we need to go. We need to keep moving. Like, the war, the GWAT's still going on. Afghanistan's still hot. Like, we're still conducting missions over there. And like, conventional Army comcams are supporting special forces. You have Air Force supporting special forces. Like, SF uses comcam a lot, as an enabler. And so I was like, why are we not, like, and they'd even put them on like some Ranger missions too and everything. And so eventually we were creating products and doing a lot of photo video work, CONUS. So like in the continental United States, that the regimental commander was seeing, the regimental sergeant major was seeing, like, really good work. And I'm still trying to push, like, get us over to Afghanistan. We need to support them. Or even integrate in the MLATs, integrate in the TFDs. So like our training events, we need to integrate more if we actually want to be a part of this unit in a tactical capacity, like I believe we should. And eventually the colonel at the time, Colonel Tegmeyer, was like, because I remember I kept pushing it, and then somehow it came up. He was like, he finally emailed our shop, and he's like, why are we not using our visual information assets? And so it was perfect, because I also, at that time, actually in 2018, I threatened to leave. I told my OIC, I was like, hey man, like, if this isn't happening, I'm leaving. Like, I'm going to a unit where I can actually do my job OCONUS, like to the fullest extent of what I believe we should do. And I was in a very unique position. I was the only one, right? So I was able to play ball. And he was like, all right. And that's when the conversation started. And then boom, we were able to get overseas. And we were at this time, like, I'm doing recruiting missions back to Maryland. We have some people in the pipeline for RASP. We just have a new guy who came in too. So he ended up going, the newer guy came overseas with me too. We get overseas, in bed with the strike force there. And, as an enabler, so support element, as I guess you'd say, direct support element, because as a direct support element, there's only like one or two of you normally in general, so you get to go on a lot of missions. So I had the opportunity to go on a lot of missions and document everything from battle damage assessments like KIA to historical documentation and everything. So it was awesome, amazing. Like, we were crushing the VI over there. There was an extremely good Air Force public affairs officer over there. Like, she was, she's a friend of mine today still. Did great things too. So yeah, we were doing good, like pushing stuff out to the Afghan media, because that's the whole shtick, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to start running a couple of your photos kind of across right now so people can see kind of what you've done. And while that happens, I kind of want to loop back to something you had said of, being a part of that visual information piece, that it's your job to document the GWAT, but it's also your job to document history, right? I don't know if that's the exact terminology used, but what it kind of made me think, and the question I have for you is thinking of some of the most famous historical photos that have been taken of war, anywhere from, Vietnam up to modern day GWAT. Was that like war correspondents? Was that journalists? Was there a position in the military back in, say, Vietnam or any of the wars in between then and now where that was an official capacity of a military member, or were those being taken by like journalists?
Yeah, so it depends on the war. But yes, like the position of like normally like a combat journalist kind of has definitely been around for quite some time. Like even like Joker in what's the movie from Vietnam?
Oh, Full Metal Jacket.
Yes, yeah, like he was like a war correspondent, or I can't remember, like I don't even know what they used to call it back in Vietnam. But he was the a Marine
bullet sponge.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, even like you go back to World War II, and there's some like famous documentation, even like famous documentation of Rangers too.
Yeah.
From back then, like the World War II Rangers. But a lot of it too is like civilian. Like there are some civilian like war correspondents. So it all really depends,
I think one of the coolest kind of set of photos that I've seen that you put out outside of, some of the really, relevant ones that we've seen from the deployments that you were on was the trip to Normandy. Those are some iconic ones that I know have gone viral on social media for the last couple of years, but also have documented some really cool modern day approach, or just that shared relationship in history between warriors. Talk me through briefly kind of what was that trip to Normandy like?
It was sick. So it was right. So we actually kind of left Afghanistan a little bit early. So it was me and my ranger John Bryson, Clay Bryson. I don't know, he's a Southerner, so John or Clay, whatever one he wants to go by. Like, are you going by middle name or first name? And yeah, so we pretty much Afghanistan, Germany, home for a couple days in Fort Benning, then immediately turn and burn, advance party to Normandy. So maybe that wasn't the best transition, you know what I'm saying? Like immediately coming from like a lot of like combat missions to, hey, we're going to France and there's a lot of alcohol and it's really good and it's kind of a party. But in saying that, the experience was awesome. You know, it was the first time, because it's like, you know, like when you come back, like everything is like silent professional, you know, like there's no real especially if you live in the barracks and you're a single dude. Like, there's no greeting party when you come back. It's, all right, do you guys want to go? Are we going to the Tap, I guess? Are we going to insert bar in Tacoma when we get
going to the PX to get a 30 rack and a bottle of whiskey?
Yeah, I guess we're getting hammered in the barracks today?
Yeah, I had a tradition. I had a bottle of Macallan 12 when I'd come back from my trips.
Nice.
So I always had a couple buddies that were, you know, had been pulled back for whatever reasons. And on my way back from like Germany, I would text them and be like, hey, go get me a bottle of Macallan 12. Right. And then that was like the minute I walk in my barracks room is like pour a tall glass, and it's kind of a nostalgic thing now with that. All right, so Normandy, that sounds like an awesome trip, man. And obviously some of the photos that you've taken there have been, like I said, iconic. So,
dude, in Normandy, so we were just being rowdy. Like the RCO, when the full party finally got there, he was like, all right, like pretty much, hey, like we're here, you guys are representing, like you're wearing uniforms, like you guys are allowed to drink alcohol in uniforms. But if anyone gets blackout drunk, you're going to get RFS'd. And you're like, we'll see, dude.
Challenge accepted.
Dude, so we had this, I was with one of the commo guys, super big Jack, dude. And he had like a box, somehow he had box wine, like a Francia, right?
Yeah.
And we're like slapping a bag. We're like walking down the streets of like one of the villages, just getting crazy, man. And we're in uniform, just being degenerates.
There's nothing more degenerate than drinking boxed wine in France.
Slapping the bag too. But yeah, and then people had those old school Willie Jeeps. Like there was like a bunch of English people that came down, and there was like, "Oi, would you you fancy a ride, mate?" There's or whatever, you know.
Oh, that doesn't sound French at all.
Well, they're English, dude. They I don't know what they're doing there, dude. They just want to flex their Willie Jeeps that they sell for like $40K USD. And where was I going with this?
Getting hammered, blacked out, you accepted the challenge. Drinking was not a good thing to do on the way back from an immediate deployment.
Yeah, there's more to that, but we can go to whatever the next question is.
Yeah, we'll get that one in the next episode. All right, so just because we're going to be wrapping up
That's
soon.
a whole fucking thing.
Yeah, well, next time we'll get into that. So just because we're going to be wrapping up here soon, tell me what you're doing now. So you got out, first of all, when did you get out? And then kind of explain what the organization is that you've now opened up, launched, and are doing now.
Yeah, so got out late, super late, 2021. Did some stuff with the GI Bill for a little bit, kind of had my own transition. Then have my media company, Eisner's Creative, LLC. So yeah, photo video work right now. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Just doing what I've been doing for quite some time now, photo and video work.
So obviously you've transitioned out of the kind of in your face, war style. Do you have a niche that you're looking for, or are you kind of open to business from any and every?
Yeah, well, I think right now, because I'm just transitioning out, and I've pretty much been doing everything. I'm not going to do weddings, I'll tell you that much right now. I did that before.
Sorry, ladies.
Sure, it's like you can make some good money there, but that's not the direction I really want to go. So I'm trying to go like adventure, outdoor kind of stuff, outdoorsy. I want to be more in nature, traveling around a little bit. So I have some brands I work with where that, makes that possible. But yeah, I really do miss the excitement of like, whether it's just being in a foreign place where there's potential danger and you're like, this is kind of sick, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to figure out a way to do something, I don't know, get that same energy. I don't know. There's some opportunities I'm thinking about spitballing around, so we'll see.
I think the cool thing about going down the adventure route is, I hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2021, and I had an iPhone 8 with me, or if not even older than that, probably at the time. And I took like 2,000 photos and a whole bunch of videos, and I just wish that I would have had something better, because it's like having the ability to know how to take a photo or a video the right way and having the right equipment to do it can really capture something that's like such a unique experience. Like some of the sunsets, some of the experiences that I had that were like, you're just never going to have that exact scenario again. And then looking back on a photo later that evening or the next day and being like, damn, that did not capture like what I was seeing with my eye. So I think that's a cool route. I mean, obviously some of the work that you've done it really does bring you into the moment. I think that's one of the more powerful things about the work that you did for Ranger Regiment is it helps put you in. It brings me back to see those photos in that way. You know what I mean? And I can really see the allure for doing that on the adventure side in the civilian sector. So that's about all the time that we have. So drop your social media handles, your website, and all that stuff so everyone can get a hold of you.
We drop your panties.
Well, that's going to be later. Believe that. What do you got? Instagram. What's your Instagram?
At Jaerett.
Okay, we'll put that in there. Do you got a YouTube?
Eisners.com.
Yeah, a YouTube page.
E&E Creative.
Awesome.
E&D.
Awesome, man. All right. Any other closing comments?
God bless America.
Oh, I agree with that one. All right, man. Appreciate you.